So, has Ethiopia been colonized? Was Ethiopia colonized? And did Ethiopia become a nation in 1945? Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is our subject right here. Yeah, oh my goodness. But some people take the disinformation as real information, and that is where my people perish, right, for lack of knowledge. That's what my people are destroyed, right? As Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. You know, the scripture says not to be a false witness, right? And so here we came across this over here. This guy's channel was Hennessy, right? With the green screen effect. And here it says, so Ethiopia has been colonized. Really? When? And then became a nation, a word, or national. They say became a national. What kind of English is this? Became a nation, became national. Became national in the year 1945. Well, those are two false assertions right there. Two very false assertions right there. Then he goes on to say that Haile Selassie was hidden under Queen Elizabeth. Wait, hold on for a moment. Queen Elizabeth, she became, when did Queen Elizabeth, QE the second, when did Queen Elizabeth become queen? I think in 1950 something. 1950 something. When was the fascist Italian, war, the Italian invasion, fascist invasion of Ethiopia? That was from 36 to 41. 36 to 41. So was Queen Elizabeth, was she queen at that time? No, Queen Elizabeth was not queen at that time. So therefore, Haile Selassie was not hidden under Queen Elizabeth. Oh my gosh. Then they say over here, but the truth comes out now. What truth? Oh, you mean this video I'm doing? The video I'm doing right here, this is the truth, right? All of this right here is a lie. All this is a lie. Ethiopia was not colonized, and it did not become a national what? Hebrew national, a national what? Right? A nation, you mean? It did not become a nation in the year 1945. We want to show you how, when we talk about the Lucifer effect, and those who are Lucifer affected and affected, check out our video about the Lucifer effect, right? You know, they say one fool makes many. Now, this individual here, and we've heard this over and over and over. You know, if you say, oh, Haile Selassie, he begged Queen Elizabeth for help against the fascists. She was not even queen at that time. She was not. No, she was not. She was not queen at that time. She was a little girl, actually, Queen Elizabeth around that time, right? So what truth comes out? The truth of this video that exposes the lies. So far, 1, 2, 3 lies right here. The truth comes out. That's probably the only true thing you're saying, because the truth is coming out as we're exposing the lies. Right, as we're exposing the lies, these are the lies that circulate a lot in social media. We did a vid, and was thinking whether to call it fascism in social media, or rather to call it social media fascism, right? Fascism in social media, you know what I mean? Or social media fascism, but I think the Lucifer effect is more correct. People, they pick up on disinfo and never really even scrutinize it. They just run with it. They figure it's like clickbait, so they go with it, right? So they said, now let the world know that Ethiopia has been what? Has been colonized. Now, we saw this guy's video right here, Hennessy right here, right? And here's a view of his video right here. So behind him, right, he has this particular article. He's not the only one. A lot of ones, we noticed like a lot of Eritreans, just jumped on this. Bella Danissimo, right? But here, Happy birthday. This is from this thing, the Daily News, right? This would be like established 1920, right? And this is fake news, right? Fake news. Ethiopia born in 1945, question mark. WTF? What the? Right? Fake news. What the fake news? Ethiopia born, right, in 1945. What the fake news? This is fake news, y'all. I mean, look at this right here. Just the top part, right? Just look at the top part right here. You see the center column, right? Let's scroll up so you can see this a little bit more, and let's zoom in because this is it right here. There we go. You see the center text? This is fake. This is a chat GPT, or AI. This is the AI fraud right here. This is the AI fraud. This is like parody. This is a parody. This is a spoof. You know what I mean? This is a lie, right? But because people take this lie as a truth, this is what is really dangerous, because they want to believe. Right? These are the haters. They want to believe. The territory here, this fake news says the territory known as Abyssinia officially changed its name to Ethiopia and became a nation. Happy birthday, Ethiopia. Like those old kind of vids that would go like that right there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how they would do it, right? In those old, newsreels. The territory known as Abyssinia officially changed its name to Ethiopia and became a nation. Happy birthday, Ethiopia. Right now, fools are running with this fake news. And not even noticing that when you look at it, look at it. You see the difference between the boldness of the text in the center. Look at this right, the boldness of the text in the center, right? And the text on the side, right? So this is all fake news, but this guy, he went into, we caught his video right here, you know what I mean? Hennessy, right? And so Ethiopia has been colonized, blah, 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 la, 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 la. Let's go into this right here. So here's more of the page without, his green screen effect right there, right? And this is fake. This is a fake article. You can actually see this. I don't know why ones can't see that there's like the brown text, the brownish text, and then the reinsert. They didn't even change it to do like a color dip, where you dip the color so you can get like the color you're trying to make it simulate, But it's so boldly, a fake news story, right? But this has been circulating. This was circulating a while ago. We noticed nobody really did anything about it, so we said we're going to do something about it right here, right? And then he said the new nation of Ethiopia is bordered by Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, Sudan, and Kenya. 1945, right? This is a lie. Well, it is true that Ethiopia is bordered by these other nations. But you see, this whole article right here, let's show you fully right here, is a fake story. Let's go up at the top and see what some people said on this. Some people ran with this right here, right? Now this Febs Gual Eritrea. We notice a lot of the Eritrea, I don't know why they're such haters, but a lot of the Eritreans, you know what I mean? Basically went on this. And what it is, it's like kind of like a generational curse in a sense, where something happened way back in the past. Right, and many of us as the children, we don't really know, and what we've been told is not really true, right? And to all my Eritrean people, Etera Bahia, to Eritrean people, please, wake up from this, please, please. This is no good, right? How many ones were duped into believing that this was a real article, real story. Right, born in 1945, hashtag Ethiopia. Then they put the next hashtag there, and the next hashtag says facts matter. Now we're going to show how unfactual, facts do matter. Let's first of all agree with that. Facts do matter. But we're going to show you how this is not a fact. But they ran with this, and they didn't want to talk about facts matter. Right? Prior, because it looked like an old story. 1945, they made it kind of CPA, they CPA'd it and everything, but they didn't do that with the center column. That's why we can, you can clearly eye it and see it's fake. But let's read through this here. From Febs Gual, Eritrea. Right? They said prior to 1945, there was no state officially known as Ethiopia. That is a bold-faced lie. right?
When I say more, you say fire. More
Isat, Yikatalo, Yikatalo, Isat. Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie right there. They say prior to 1945, and they're all running with this fake news story, this fake news. Running this fake news, they have the audacity, right? Was this a test? I think this was a test. And this was a test, y'all. All y'all that believe this fake news, right? Y'all failed the test. Y'all failed miserably, right? And you need to check out the Lucifer effect. That's why we did that about the Lucifer effect in social media. These people have been Lucifer affected, right? When it says Satan has deceived the whole world, right? It says the territory previously referred to as Abyssinia was renamed after the withdrawal of Italian power. To the truth of the matter, the Italians, the Europeans, and the Arabs are the ones that impose the exonym. The exonym. It's like an external name. You know, like somebody may, like I might call you fool, right? But you know, people that know you might call you friend, right? Because your friends are fools. You know what I'm saying? So I call you fool. So my name, calling you fool, is an exo name, like a external name, a name from the outside. But people who know you, who are fools too, they call you friend. You see, so this is what happened with Ethiopia. With Ethiopia, when the Italians had occupied for those 5 or so years, they tried to rename the country, right? Rename it Abyssinia. They tried to rename it Abyssinia. This is the facts of the matter, right? These are the real facts, right? So that second part, when it says it was previously referred to, notice what they said. They didn't say that was previously named, right? Previously named. You see, this is for critical thinking, for free thinkers and critical thinkers. They say the territory previously referred to, not previously named, but previously referred to as Abyssinia. Referred to by who? That's the next question. By who? By who was it previously referred to? Are you speaking about Benito Mussolini? Right? After the withdrawal of Italian power. Yes, the country was renamed to its original name, Ethiopia, but was known as Ethiopia even before the Italians in the 5 years called it Abyssinia. Bellanissimo, Bellanissimo, Bellanissimo. All right, so they say happy birthday, happy 80th birthday, Ethiopia. And this is from somebody, they call it at Test for News. And then they have the laughing face. Well, you know what? They say he who what? He who laughs, laughs. Right? Whether laughs the best, laughs the hardest, he who laughs last. Right? He who laughs, laughs. Well, right here, we gotta, we gotta laugh. You gotta laugh at this one right here, right? Because the joke, the joke is on you, right? The joke is on all y'all, right? It's on all of y'all that believe this fake news. I mean, look at the center column. Look at the center column. Look at the text in the center column. Compare the font type in the center column. Compare the font to the left and compare the fonts to the right, right? So they inserted this. They gave it a little bit of the same color in the background, and they made people believe this is a real news story, right? And this is from 2025, as recent as May 8th, 2025. Right, 7,686 views of this fake news. Right, this fake news. But how come nobody is rebutting this? Right, there's very few that are rebutting this. Even there's some folks, right, who are uneducated, right? They really don't know. There's people that support, people support things and people support Ethiopia, but they really don't study. Right, this is what this channel is about. It's about education. Education is the key. Right, so here's the fake news. Right, this is the fake news right here. Let's zoom in on it right here so you can see this full screen right here. This is fake news. Now, how do we know that it's fake news? Right, let's go on right here. Right, so this part right there, the part that's in the red brackets, right, is the part that was inserted. Right, that's the part that was inserted. Right, how do we know it's inserted? Well, we know it's inserted because we do our research. Right, we research this. First of all, we know that the information that is presenting there is false. It's false information. What's the information they're presenting? The information, or the disinformation rather, that's the more correct word for it. It's the disinformation, and it's a dis in more than one way, that the territory known as Abyssinia right, officially, right, changed its name to Ethiopia and became a nation. So they're implying that that territory was not called Ethiopia before, right? Before the Italians. The Italians, as we mentioned already, renamed it, right, from like 36 to 41, right? Before that, it was known as Ethiopia. In fact, the anointed and crowned title, right, of the elect of God, right, of the King of Kings of Ethiopia, of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, is the King of Kings of Ethiopia. Negusa Neges Ze Ethiopia, right? And that's, that is in the Ge'ez. Actually, it's Ge'ez, not Amharic, but it's the ancient language of Ge'ez, right? The anointed and the crowned title of Haile Selassie. So in 1930, right, November 2nd, it was known as Ethiopia. Right, ones went to Ethiopia. 72 nations sent representatives, to Ethiopia to witness that event. Right, so it was known as Ethiopia. Right, and after the fascist occupation, the Italian, Romanist, Vaticanian occupation of Ethiopia, it was returned to its original name, Ethiopia. But this story here is a fake story. Right, it's a fake story. There we go again. You can see it right there. Born in the year 1945. Right? That's what they're running with. Right? But here's the original article. Right? Here is the original. You see the difference? Do you see the difference? Here is the original. Right? Here's the original. We're going to get a clearer picture for you of this, but here's the original. This is the original. You see the center column? Right? Upcoming shows, Radio City Music Hall. They took out all that, Columbia. They took out all that, and that's where they put, you see the center column right there? You see this right here? Right? And they put this in there. Right? This is how they faked it. Right? This is how they faked it. Right? This is how they faked it. This is how they fake it. Right? This is how they fake it. Right? And let's go to this one right here. Did we go to this one already? Yeah, all right, yeah, this is Test for News. So it was taken from this other channel, right, or this other site, Test for News, right, Test for News, hashtag Facts Matter, right, and then it was reposted, right, on the Feb's Gual Eritrea site right there. So they took this right here, and look, this is a nice clear one right here. You can see how fake it looks. The clearer the picture, the faker it looks. Look at that right there. The clearer the picture, the faker it looks. Right? This is fake news, y'all. Fake news, y'all. Right? How many, does it tell us? It doesn't tell us right here how many hits they got on this one right there. Right? But here, let's go to the website. Now, this one, Poetic Justice, let's first of all just zoom in on Poetic Justice. Right? Poetic Justice. Let's give Poetic Justice a round of applause. Right? On X. Poetic Justice on X. Right? Move one, move all. Right? So image 1 is the original. Image 2 is the fake. Editing images to distort hashtag Ethiopia's globally documented history is absurd and pointless. This is true. Right? With its legacy etched in university curricula, right? Biblical texts, and archaeological records, such alterations, really deceptions and lies, are swiftly exposed as amateurish fakes, right? As amateur fakes. But you know what? The shocking thing? That a lot of people ran with this as though it's true. So here we see, you see it side by side right there? You see it side by side, right? Side by side right there. The one we showed you right there, from, I think it was, what was it, Pinterest or something like that. Somebody's either selling it or, people are selling the original Daily News one, and then they have the fake one. I'm not surprised if ones are selling the fake ones, right? And I would not be surprised if they make ones believe, because it seems like the easiest thing in this present world, right, is to make people believe a lie, right? All it has to do, right, this is what? This is May 9th, 2025. Give thanks for responding to in time. But notice, the truth only got 2,595 views, but the lies got nearly 8,000 views. Did you notice that? Did you notice that? They say like the lie, can, go around the world, right, before the truth has time to put on his boots, right? But there you can see it side by side. Once again, give thanks to poetic justice, right, on X, for going into this. But here, let's go to the website. Let's go to the website, right? Right? Let's go to the website. This is the website right here. This is X, right? Where you can see the article for yourself right there. You can see it side by side, right? Some sort of birthday poster from 1945, and then somebody faked it, right? Roughly in 2025, right? So the original from 1945, and then we see the fake in 2025, right? But let's do this right here. Let's do this right here. Let's see if we can, let's go to Google Lens, right? Google Lens, right? Google Lens right there. Okay, it's moving it on the side. So excuse me for that right there, right? Moving on the side, right? Right there. Okay. Okay, we're going to have to, here's what we'll do right here, right? Let's come out of this, right? Let's come out of this right here. Right? Let's come out of that page, right? And we're gonna go back over here, right? And we're gonna show you what we was able to actually screenshot, right? We was thinking that it probably would turn on the side, the Google Lens, but here we'll show you it better. Okay, so here we have it right here, right? When we put the Google Lens on it and then scrolled it up and it gave a little AI overview, it says this image is a mock newspaper front page titled "The Daily News Born in the Year 1945," right? Quote, end quote, right? Highlighting key events and facts from that year. World events, right? Right? World events. It says the first atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And Abyssinia, here, this is part of the fake, the mockery, the lie, the deception, right? And Abyssinia officially changed its name to Ethiopia. How could that be? In 1945, right? When in 1930, Haile Selassie was anointed and crowned King of Kings of Ethiopia, and the country was called Ethiopia, and it was all over the newspapers as Ethiopia, officially. I mean, even with the League of Nations, it was known as Ethiopia. But then also there was innovation culture, Percy Spencer. This is also other things that was on that front page right there, right? And U.S. president and economy from back in that time. So basically what you saw right there, right, that image there is a mock newspaper. It's basically a fake, right? A fake newspaper, right? And we already showed you the fact that it is a spoof, it is a fake, right? Image one was the original, and the image that many people have been going with that alleges falsely that Ethiopia was named and became a nation. Not just that it was named, but in other words, implying that it was never a nation. It was an empire, right? An empire. You see what I'm saying? Fake news. Watch out for fake news. Fake news is dangerous, right? So we just asked, this is a basic search, for basic information. Was Ethiopia born in 1945? I mean, even the AI overview knows that that's a lie. No. I mean, these people who ran with it never even just checked it out. They just ran with the fake news, right? No, Ethiopia was not born in 1945. Check this. It is a nation with a continuous history dating back to the ancient kingdom of Dimit, right? Some say Dimt, right? Dimit, or Dimt, right? Around 980 BC. 980 years before Christ. You see what's been said right here? All right. The nation has experienced various historical periods and transformations, such as the ancient Aksumite kingdom, the Solomonic dynasty, and the incorporation of Ethiopia. But its existence as a state, it's Ethiopia's existence as a state, it predates the 20th century significantly, right? Now, right here, significantly. Look, on the 24th of October, 1945, Ethiopia became a founding member of the United Nations, and before that, it was a member of the League of Nations as Ethiopia, right? And then in 1952, Haile Selassie orchestrated a federation with Eritrea, and this is one of the things that still is a sore point, for many Eritreans even to this very day, right? That's a point, that's a whole other political issue with them, right? Now, we scrolled down on the same page and said, well, what year was Ethiopia born, right? Accordingly, right? Well, in antiquity, that means in BC times, right? Right? In BC times, right? Nearly 3,000 years, as Bob Marley has said, 3,000 years of history you cannot wipe away so easily, right? You can't. So Dimit or Dimt was established in present-day Eritrea and the northern part of Ethiopia in Tigray region. In ancient times, before the Italians, the land and the peoples were one people, was not this division between what's called Ethiopia and Eritrea. Today, the politics, the times of the Gentiles, the nation states, all of that, prophecy, that's what's going on right there. But in ancient times, it was before the Italians. When the Italians came, and Belladonissimo, Eritrea, it caused this particular rift, right? Some might call it Stockholm, white supremacist Stockholm syndrome is what caused this rift between Eritrea, and Ethiopia, right? And a whole bunch of, lies in politics as well. As we're showing you that this fake meme about 1945 Ethiopia became a nation, right? As that is a lie, as that is fake news, right? It's other fake news that has led to the kind of divide and conquer. As the Bible says, that the Antichrist, they will seek to do what? Divide and conquer, brother against brother. So that's how we see the Eritrea and the Ethiopia from ancient times. But the modern white supremacist fascist politics has had a bad effect. That's why we found that there was a lot of ones, especially a lot of Eritreans and others that was pushing that fake news about Ethiopia in 1945. But when we go to the truth of the matter, we go back to Ethiopia's or Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia's origin going back to 980 BC, the Dimit, right? Which was established in present day, what's known as Eritrea, right? And the northern part of Ethiopia, right? So that means that both Eritrea, what's called Eritrea today, and the northern part of Ethiopia was under what we call Ethiopia. That's the facts of the matter, right? And it's widely believed to be the successor state to Punt, right? This polity's capital was located at Yeha. So where the capital of this ancient, the Dimit or Dimt, right, was located in the place called Yeha, right, in what is now northern Ethiopia, right? So right there. All right, let's go over here. That's an interesting one, whether it's older than Egypt, right? Because we saw there was another video that was out there where I think it was this guy ran into an Ethiopian girl. He asked her something, about which one is old, what's the oldest nation, and she says Ethiopia, and then he must be Egyptian or something like this, modern Arab, Ottoman, Turkish kind of Egyptian, and he basically says, no, it's Egypt, right? Well, we'll check into that. That might be a whole other video, but I want to show you a couple of key points here. The earliest known kingdom in Ethiopia, Dimt, was established around 980 BC, right? And this is roughly the same time as we have the Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, right? Within the Book of Kings, as well as Chronicles account, right? Ancient to medieval, the country evolved through various states, including the prominent Aksumite kingdom and later the Solomonic dynasty, which is said to have begun around 1270 AD, from the Davidic roots and the Israelite roots, the Israelites of Ethiopia, then the Solomonic dynasty, right? Restored and renewed in 1270 AD, and this kind of comes up to the modern times. So we can see there's an ancient history, but traced into the modern era. The Ethiopian Empire, under Emperor Haile Selassie, was a significant political entity and continued to exist after World War II, because it existed before World War II. Therefore, 1945, right, here's the facts of the matter, is not a birth year for Ethiopia which has a much longer and more complex history. You see, but nobody want to deal with the truth, because then you have to deal with facts, right? Then we had asked this other question here, right? Right? Haile Selassie named Ethiopia, right? And so Haile Selassie was the emperor of Ethiopia, a name used during his reign. So now where does this name Abyssinia? Because this is the next kind of confusion that comes up often. You know, once you say, well, it's called Abyssinia, or the books that they read, or certain historical documents might refer to what we know as Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia, or Tobia. The more archaic name is Tobia, the Tob, right? Like in the Hebrew, Tob means good, right? Tobia, Ethiopia, right? But Abyssinia, let's touch on Abyssinia, was a historical name used for the country that was still in use in the 1930s. And Mussolini sought to divide and conquer by changing it to Abyssinia, right? Because this is a name that was known to the Europeans and to the Arabs, right? Two, we have to say historical, right, enemies, especially coming from the Italians and the Romans, right, of Ethiopia. You know what I mean? But was less preferred for the modern state. Haile Selassie was known for modernizing. Okay, let's go over here. Right? John Hoy, Talak Umari, Abba Tekel. But let's go over here, right? Because when we, just so that we're able to show you this right here, right? So here it goes down that Selassie, or Haile Selassie, was known for modernizing the country, which was officially known as the Ethiopian Empire. So it was not even just a nation, we need to note that, but it was known as an empire. So within Ethiopia from ancient times, you know, up to the end of His Majesty's reign, right, the visible reign, that Ethiopia was known as nations. The reason why the title of King of Kings is because the different peoples and the different provinces represented different nations. Right? So it's like different nation, different nationality. But the Judeo-Christian, you know, the Shemitic, the Solomonic, you know, ruled that aspect, of which Haile Selassie is the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, right? King of Kings of Ethiopia, the chosen one of God, or the elect of God, right? So right down here, this is also very important for you to see the historical naming. So Abyssinia, right, they say was an older external name. The key word here is external. That means outside. Like in my fool and friend example, right? I call you fool, right? But your friends call you a friend, right? Because your friends are fools too. But my naming you fool and your friends naming you friend, or maybe they call you whatever your name is, right? But I call you fool, right? So imagine now nobody calls you by your name, right? The people that know you, but everybody calls you what I call you. This is what's happened to Ethiopia with the term Abyssinia. It's an external name for the heart of the country, which continued to be used on maps, especially maps by foreigners, especially by Europeans, right? And Ethiopia was the internal and historical name of the land and its people. How do we know this? We know this because when we study the Amharic and the Ge'ez writings, the people are speaking of themselves as Ethiopians, right? And we're talking about hundreds, you know, to over 1,000 years of writing, right? Which reflects this, right? This is how we know that Ethiopia, or Tobia, is the name of the place, and the people identify themselves as Ethiopia, right? But the foreigners, right? This is why this is good. You need to take a screenshot of this right here, y'all, right here. So we have the external name, that means the outsiders, like the Arabs and the Europeans, right? And then we have the people themselves, right? What the people, the internal name, right? And the historical name, and also the name, right, within the documentation. See, this is what really kills their false, you know, argument, their lies, right, is the evidence, the documentation. And the documentation, first of all, I just point to November 2nd, right? Right? King of Kings of Ethiopia, although some still use the term Abyssinia, because we're going to get to that. Why do they use the external name? Let's scroll down here, right? Well, Haile Selassie in his country, he was crowned Emperor of Ethiopia, or King of Kings, Negus Neges, Ethiopia, 1930. the country he ruled was called the Ethiopian Empire, right? So it wasn't just a nation, but it was an empire. And within that empire, there are many nations. Check what I'm saying, right? While Abyssinia was still understood, Ethiopia was the preferred and official term for the nation during Haile, not Selassie, but Haile Selassie's reign, right? And this is important to understand. It's like the people said, this is who we are, but others was using an outside name, an external name that other people. It's almost like with black people. They call us, every name but a child of God. The Negro and colored and Negra and all this kind of mess. All these bywords. It's somewhat similar right there, right? You see how that goes right there. So the Ethiopian Empire. Understand what we mean by this right here. So let's go over here, right? Let's get a breakdown of this because this is important so that when ones come across the disinformation, when you have the truth and enough of the real information, you won't be swayed by the disinformation. You'll be able to expose the disinformation, expose the lie, and also to educate others about the truth. When did Ethiopia change its name from Abyssinia? Right? That's the question people ask, right? People are asking, when did Ethiopia? We showed you the fake meme, the fake news, out there from that daily news, fake news that a lot of people have jumped out the window and really hurt themselves on. Right? When did Ethiopia change its name from Abyssinia? The AI overview right here is that Ethiopia did not, Ethiopia did not change its name from Abyssinia. But this is something that, we would have these discussions, arguments. People say, well, why is Ethiopia? That's the Greek. And we say, no, actually the Greeks named because they heard Tobia, right? We have Tobia, but because people are not linguistic, they don't have much information. And they, evil finds willing servants and they just serve the evil rhetoric. Because they repeat the lie, although they don't understand even the issues that they're lying for. Right? So Ethiopia did not change its name from Abyssinia. Rather, Abyssinia, here's the truth, right? Abyssinia was an exonym. An exonym is an outside name that was used by foreigners. So Ethiopians, they have this phrase, Ferengi, right? Ferengi. And the good is Ferengi. I know it sounds like Star Trek, right? Ferengi. That's the good is, but in the Amharic, Ferengi, right? While Ethiopia has been the name, not it just became, but it has been the name used by the people, right? So this is another way to distinguish who is the people and who is not the people, right? The people who are not the people call it Abyssinia. The people who are the people call it Ethiopia. You see what I'm saying? While Ethiopia has been the name used by the people and the rulers of the kingdom since at least the 4th century CE, right? That's like 400 like AD, right? And for the official international name post-World War II in 1945, right? So it's already the name. The name Abyssinia gained popularity. You see why the name Abyssinia still can be found, and you can do old research. You find old books written by Europeans who were misinformed by Arabs, right? Among Europeans and Arabs, but was not used by the inhabitants themselves. This is one of the good things, the potentials of AI, right? When there's really facts out there, AI can basically go to the facts, right? Cross-reference things and present the facts, right? On some matters that are factual, right? And this is one of the great things right here, right? So it was not used by the inhabitants themselves. So the inhabitants of Ethiopia, of the empire, right, did not call themselves Abyssinians. Right? It was only the Ferenjo, it was only the foreigners who did so. Well, here's a breakdown. Let's get a breakdown of the name so-called change and its context, right? Because context matters, right? Context matters. Let's go right here. Context matters. So here's a breakdown, right? Here's a breakdown, right? Please like, share, and subscribe. Also donate, buy me a coffee, if you can support this particular work right here, you know what I mean? Because these are not the kind of things, that are very clickbaitable. People are not concerned about these real issues. You know what I mean? But here we have endonym, right, and an exonym. Ethiopia, the name Ethiopia is an endonym. That means it's a name coming from the people, like an indigenous, an endonym, an endoname, an indigenous name, Ethiopia. The name used by the people of the land. By who? By the people of the land. Abyssinia is an exonym. What's an exonym? An exonym is a name given to the country by outsiders, right? Or given by foreigners. And the foreigners in this context will be the Arabs, Habasha, Abyssinia, and the Europeans picking up, just as the Europeans picked up algebra, right? They picked from the Arabs, they picked up Abyssinia as well from the Arabs. But that was not the name of the people themselves. That's the name of the outsiders, the foreigners of the people. Ancient origins. And you see why this matters a lot to even we, once lost, now found, black and brown sheeple of the Bites, Yisrael, Beta Israel here in the American Caribbean, because we also have been misnamed. All these bywords. We're talking about the byword in the scripture. These bywords have been used against us. Colored, nigger, negro, this, that, every name colored, hyphenated this, hyphenated that. All of that has been used by outsiders. When we identify ourselves and we say, well, we're the B'nai Yisrael, we're the Beta Israel, we're the Beit Yisrael. What Babylon feel like? I Rastafari, we're Israelites. You know what I mean? People laugh. They think it's a joke, right? And they say, no, you are what the other people call you. You are not who you. If I ask you what's your name, and you say your name is John Doe, right? Just say if it's John Doe, right? John Doe or Jane Doe, right? And I say, no, your name is fool. Your name is stupid, right? And then everybody's calling you fool and stupid, but nobody's calling you John or Jane Doe, right? You see how serious that is, right? You see how it's a violation, right, of your God-given right, to even self-identification, right? The name Ethiopia comes from. Now, here's where this is another lie. AI hasn't gotten up on this, but I'll tell you first, so you can accept it or dismiss it, right? But when they say that Ethiopia comes from the ancient Greek word, well, the Greeks in going into that region came across the people, and even they said a king named Tobias or Tobiah. Tobiah is a Hebrew, right? Has a Hebrew tob. Tob means good. Like we say, Erev Tob. Modern Hebrew, they say Tov. But the ancient pointing is Tob. So the ancient name of Ethiopia comes from Tobiah, Ethiopia, and also from the Hebrew Hativa, which means to be good, the good land, right? That's what it comes from right there, right? But when the Greeks came along, it's like when foreigners come along and you tell them what your name is in your language, they might not understand it, but it might sound like something in their language. And because it sounds like something in their language and it seems to have a meaning, this is what they call you, right? And they say meaning sub-Saharan Africa. Well, and was adopted, they say, by the kingdom of Aksum in the 4th century CE. This is what they say, right? Let's go on. The spread of Abyssinia. The term Abyssinia spread due to interactions between the Arabs and Europeans with the people of the Horn of Africa. So this name, Abyssinia, Habasha, if you go back to the Arabic, Habasha, and Habasha has Habasha. It has a sense of like a mixture, because within that region there were many different tribes. Some of them were what people would call the academics, the Cushitic or the Hamitic tribes, and some of them were the Shemitic. As the Kevin again says, the kings of Ethiopia are of Shem, right? Of Shem. They were Shemitic. So here's where we get the sense of the Afro-Shemitic, Afro-Asiatic link. But they would call it Abyssinia. Post-World War II shift. The international use of Ethiopia did replace Abyssinia after World War II because the Europeans picking up on the Arabs, right, and the Ethiopians not being able to represent themselves, right, until the time of the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. So he can correct. What Haile Selassie did was set the record straight, right? What he did was set the record straight, right? Now, Ethiopia's role as a founding member, as we mentioned, of the United Nations in 1945, also helped, they say, from a post-World War II shift to cement its official and internationally recognized name as Ethiopia. So for a long time, right, the Europeans, the white people, the Europeans, picking up from the Arabs, they continued the rhetoric of the Arabs because after all, even Ethiopia, they didn't have really direct contact until the time of like James Bruce, where he went to find the source of the Nile River, the travels of James Bruce. Many people who are familiar with that, no doubt, understand and know that right there. In essence, just to sum up here, the name Ethiopia prevailed over the foreign exonym. So the endonym, the name of the people and of the land, the names of the people associated, identify themselves as, right? It prevailed. The lion, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, the lion of the tribe of Judah has prevailed, right? Has prevailed. Yes.
Lion of Judah Society.
All right. So, in essence, Selassie, in essence, Ethiopia, right, prevailed the name over the foreign exonym Abyssinia, with the 1940s serving as the period when their true name, when they could express their true name, it's like the once lost now found. We black and brown people, we're seeking to express who we are, but others are telling us, no, you are hyphenated American. No, you are colored. Colored. What color? Well, color red? Are we color red? Are we colored? I mean, what do you mean? They say, no, you're Negro. We Negro. We Negro like Niger. Then they say you're nigger. You mean like nigger, Niger in the Bible? They said no. You are they say you are black. Right? We'll say you are black. Black what? They say you're black American, right? Then, and notice during the time of black American, it connects with the link with Ethiopia, Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated. Just have to put that there. First unit. Yes, right there. But this is a time serving as the period when Ethiopia became the universally accepted name for the country. Right, but as we already showed and proved, right, this is who they were, this is who they be, right? But it took a while, like after you've been misnamed and misnomered, it might take a while, right, for ones and ones to really get to know really who you are. You know what I mean? It's like the lie always seems to, outpace the truth. Let's go to this page here. If you remember, we said this earlier. Right, so was Ethiopia born in 1945? Right, let's do this right here. Maybe we might use this for a cover or something like that, where it basically says no. Right, Ethiopia was not born in 1945. Right, and that's fake news, y'all, fake news. Let's scroll down right here. Right, let's see. What's on this page? I thought it said something over here. What year was Ethiopia born? Okay, we hit this right here. Right, okay, there we go. Is Ethiopia older than Egypt? Now, they say here, this is another contested point, but let's just read what they say. They say, no, Egypt's ancient civilization is much older than Ethiopia's. Well, as a nation, yes, we can agree with that. But that doesn't mean that the people of Ethiopia, they existed. In fact, they even existed, right, during the time of ancient Mizraim, right, or Gibbets, or ancient Egypt, with evidence of complex civilization in Egypt dating back before 3000 BC, while Ethiopia's ancient Demit, right, kingdom only is said to have emerged around 980 BCE. So notice, just because you have a kingdom doesn't mean you don't have smaller communities. We're talking about a kingdom is a big thing. right? But because people don't have a kingdom doesn't mean they don't exist as a people, don't have their own organized community or society. You know, for a group of people to go from just being a group of people to being a nation or a state or even a kingdom, you know, this is a process. And yes, Egypt was more, you know, organized like that. We can acknowledge that. Ethiopia boasts one of the oldest hominin, right, fossils in the world, but the question refers, right, the question refers to the age of organized civilization and countries, which places Egypt or Mizraim as older in terms of state level development. You see what I'm saying? So, of course, the origins of ancient Mizraim, even biblically and historically, you know, and archaeologically, comes from in Africa. So even the Nile, the water, you know, the Egyptians, they pride themselves in the Kemet. So a lot of people talk about Kemet, that rich reddish brown ground, it comes forward from Ethiopia in the inundation on July 23rd, when they say the dog star Sirius or Cyrus rises. But check this out, y'all. July 23rd is also known as the Earth Day, or the birthday of the Son of Man, right? What we call the Son of Man, the man child, aka Lij Tafari, or better known as Rastafari. So you can get into a little bit more on that, right? And then we get into Ethiopia's ancient history, right? At least as is testified and as is recorded right there, right? So Ethiopia's civilization, right, on a state level, it rose at a later date than the established, right, ancient Mizraim or Tawi, the more correct name Tawi or Pseudo-Kemet civilization. But the very Kemet that the ancient Egyptians pride themselves in, it actually came from Ethiopia. That is also another interesting fact and matter, a little factoid there. So here, back to the original premise here. This is fake news right here. So if you come across this, born in 1945, territory known as Abyssinia, officially changed its name to Ethiopia and became a nation. And it's fake news. Happy birthday, Ethiopia, 1945. Just, you know, it's just, you know, laugh. You know what I mean? The seed shall be called in Yitzhak, and just laugh. It's a horrible joke, but it's moreover, it's fake news right here. This is fake news, as it says right here. Very wrong and mindless. It's mindless. It's a false, mindless narrative. Eritrea had never been a separate country. This is only because of the fascists. It's only because of Italy. Belladonissimo. So this will show you this right here. That's the fake news story right there. There in the red right there. This is the original one, but here, let's actually show you right here. Okay, this is an example of it right here. Right? This is the 1941. Right? But now notice this one right here. Let me show you this right here, right? This is 1945. This is the 1945 one. Let me give you a clearer picture of it. So here, so you can see this. You can see it side by side, right? So what we have on the left hand is the original, and then we have the fake news right there on the right hand concerning territory known as Abyssinia and the whole happy birthday Ethiopia. So that's the lie right there. And hopefully we've done a good enough job exposing it. Yeah. Long live Ethiopia. Ethiopia lezelalem tenor. Ethiopia lezelalem tenor. Ethiopia lezelalem tenor. Long live Ethiopia.
Lion of Judah Society.
Approves of this message. Like, share, and subscribe. Give thanks, y'all.